Hey Bucs fans, welcome to the FSW Coaches Show here at Florida Southwestern State College. I'm Sports Information Director Roy Allen, joined on the show this week by head softball coach Robert Iamurri. Coach, how you doing this week?
Doing great.
All right, Coach, we're going to start off, since we talked last, the NJCAA came down with a ruling that all student athletes this year will not be charged with a year of eligibility because of COVID. Last year, your kids got their year back because of the same reason and the season being shortened. Talk a little bit, or a lot if you want, about how that affects your program, your team dynamics, and maybe just softball in general and recruits coming up through the path now.
Yeah, I really felt bad for the 2021s. This is probably going to make it a nightmare for the 2022s. We've actually been calling, trying to contact a lot of colleges for at least our redshirt sophomores, because we feel like, hey, now you're going to get a kid for 2 years. We've actually called a couple of the coaches looking for catchers, and I've told a couple schools, this is, I can't imagine there's a 2021 out there better than Taylor with 2 years experience with us. A legit 500 hitter last year. Her arm's gotten a lot better. She looks a lot stronger, and 2 years with us, you're going to get a player for 4 years. So the dynamics hopefully will help our kids as far as moving on, because now they're getting some pretty seasoned ball players.
Right, yeah, I mean, you're going to have kids like you spoke, your sophomores, your quote-unquote sophomores this year, who technically will still be freshmen this year, and freshmen again next year, will be able to graduate from FSW and have 4 years of eligibility left. You are going to have one very unique situation coming back next year as we look a little bit into the future. Already unique with Shanika Klett coming back for her 4th year this year, but now she's talked about coming back next year for her 5th year. So talk a little bit about that and kind of how she's managed that process and decided to be a Buck for 5 years.
I think, and this is what I've tried to tell our players and the ones that actually stayed the extra year, if we have the classes in the right degree, you're not losing a year, so you still have those years past what you would have been past us. Shanika, actually, she's going to get her bachelor's degree, so we happen to have the program she wants. She likes it here. She's very content because she can actually finish her 4th year in the education. It's not, hey, what transfer and doesn't transfer as far as bachelor's degrees. So, and when this first came out, she goes, I'm in, and I'm thinking, we probably didn't even have 2 minutes to think about even processing it when we heard it, and she happened to be at the field, when we kind of said that, and in her mind it wasn't even a question that, hey, and I think it's something good for this kid. I think she's, she went through a lot being injured. That was a pretty tough year and a half for her. So, for her to get through with a bachelor's degree and be settled in and then make a decision, hey, do I want to go out in the work field or play 2 more years and work on a master's degree? So, the good news is I think our kids are benefiting it for a master's degree or possibly even a doctorate degree.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's certainly a unique situation that everybody's having to adjust to, and we've been lucky so far to keep a lot of the kids that could have moved on because of the new rules. So hopefully that benefits us on the field this spring. This weekend, Coach, your team spent some time with a local Little League group, teaching them a little bit. I know you do that a lot. Talk about kind of your philosophy on that and why you like to see your teams doing that with the Little Leaguers in the area.
Sure. One, you want to pass it on to the next generation. The next one's coming through. One of the things I think struggling with a lot of the youth programs that are rec programs, Little League programs, where my daughter played, and a lot of kids that actually play Division I, high level D1 start at, and unfortunately the coaching's just not there. So we really enjoyed going there and getting to work with 5 and 6 year olds, and we've actually worked with some 14-year-olds wanting to play that there's not a lot of experience because most of the decent coaches have shifted over to travel ball and they're just not getting any experience. So I think it's a good way for us to pass on our knowledge and work with our local community.
Talk about kind of how your girls work with those kids and some of the benefits that they can get out of it as more than something they have to do. At the end of the day, probably something they enjoy doing.
The best part about what I really enjoyed Thursday is we actually had 5 of them, and we had put them in 5 stations, and I said, look, the object of this is to get these kids 400 swings in an hour. The best part about it is the second group that was a little bit older, One of them did the flamingo hit, one of them did the walk-through hit, one of them worked extension. They started working different drills that they did, and I think when you start teaching it, you start seeing, hey, maybe if I do this, and they're actually, I think, starting to look at it as a coach, and I think they can analyze it as a player, that they're actually getting some better aware of their dynamics and how you actually do the drill. When they start seeing somebody from scratch, they know how our coaches feel when you're at scratch trying to teach something until you develop it through. But I like the idea that they actually, that second group that was a little bit older group, we went a little broader because they had some experience that, hey, let's work different parts of the swing, and they themselves worked at the dynamics of the hitting.
Makes your players a little more coachable when they're on the other side for a little bit. Huh?
We're very fortunate they are, but I think they're more open to make adjustments because there's some kids that kind of had an open stance and stayed in open stance, and I actually had to go up and ask one, hey, well, why do you do it? She goes, well, I feel real comfortable with that. It says, and that's okay with where you're at, but if you stay open, I'm a pitching coach. I says, I'm probably going to beat you out there until you can get that foot there. I says, are you opposed to trying it? And I think the girl finally said, hey, no. And so we got her with an even stance. And I think our player realized that, hey, you've got to try something, and you've got to possibly go take a step backwards. At least you're protecting yourself from something you could be vulnerable with. So I think they saw a dynamics of, okay, how do you work with it? And you can see their heads clicking, okay, am I that open to trying something? So it's
kind of an out-of-body experience for your players to be on the other side.
It was great. We're actually going to do it again this Thursday because, with the Cape League, they let just 20 sign up, 10 and 10, and this week's a different 10 and 10 because they want the different kids in the league get that opportunity.
Awesome, that's great. Your fall season winding down, which gives you the opportunity to start to do some things like this. No more games on the schedule until it counts for real now in January. What have been some major improvement areas you've seen from your team since you started, in August, September to this point? And maybe what are some things that you would like to see your team improve on in your short window before they leave for the break?
Yeah, well, actually the biggest thing for the break, I'll go right with that, is we said, hey, it's academic time, so we're still doing a little bit of lifting. We're lifting a little bit heavier because we're not playing, so we want to get a little bit stronger. But the biggest priority is, you're getting close to getting ready to take your finals. Let's make sure we put all our emphasis in our academics to get the strong grade now, because you're going to have a busy season and you want to keep your GPA up high. So between now and the break, that's really our biggest thing to do. As far as what we saw in the fall, I think there was a lot of knowledge taught between them. I think we're a really unique group. With this COVID, we had conference meetings, and I kind of listened to what the other teams are doing or what they didn't do, and just really realized us going through, hey, a couple kids had to get checked and get quarantined. One kid actually got the virus. 6 more had sore throats and had to be quarantined. That I think our kids got more aware of just, hey, just be careful and just be aware of your surroundings. But more importantly, hey, we got to take care of each other because we got to depend on each other. That's big. That's going to be big come March if the other schools have not had their kids together all the time and realize, hey, everywhere you go, when you go out to eat, you go into a grocery store, you got to be more aware of the people around you. So we gained a lot there. I think Kelly has been, we've been very patient with our kids, trying to work on, a little bit more balance with their swings, and where I think in years past we've just gone full at it and just catch up, and hey, if you don't, maybe we'll start from scratch again in January. But I think we've been able to go slower because we're a little bit more experienced. The good news is 4 or 5 of them had Kelly before. 3 or 4 of them had come to the camps where we've taught some things. So I'm pleased. Do I think, and I've told our pitchers that, do I think we can be way farther along? Yes. But do I think where we really need to be at this point in the season, just because of what distractions can come out there? I think we haven't burned a lot of energy and emotions in the fall, where some years past, man, you needed that Christmas break. Mm-hmm. But we're trying to save a lot of that energy that we're going to really need in February and March.
You brought up Coach Kelly Quarles has come back to us this year as an assistant coach. Marta Fuentes, one of your former players, also on staff with you this year. You talked to me the other day off air a little bit about how spoiled you've been this year with those two. Give them a little bit of a shout out here and talk about how they've helped you this fall and how nice that is to have experienced assistants that you can really trust.
Yeah, and it's when you're just trusting it. I trust the game; they know the game, how to do it. But most importantly, I really have trust. There's a trust when Kelly's been here for 3 years before she left and came back. Marta's been through the system. Just the way the team acts, there's a lot of things that I've been able to back away from and just let them handle the great situations. How do you handle it? You know, the team dynamics. Kelly and Marta put together a lot of, this year again, because we've backed down a bit on Fridays. We've done a lot of team bonding things this year that you trust the direction they're going to go, because them along with the returning players, they all have the right focus and they're not sidetracked on different things. They're pretty mature and experienced. That I feel like I've got a lot of energy because I haven't really done a lot this fall.
That's a good problem to have.
It is a good problem to have, and it's a nice problem to have. It's a great problem to have as a coach, because when you can trust them. And one of the things, when I looked at taking this job, one of the very first things I wanted to do was develop young coaches and let them coach. A lot of times a coach will bring an experienced coach will bring a coach in and say, okay, I want it done this way, this way, this way, where you kind of let them do what they need to do. And then, if there's adjustment, hey, what do you see? And sometimes I'll say, hey, are you seeing this? Because I want to make sure we're seeing the same thing. We're really all on the same page. So maybe a couple of times I kind of had to say, hey, this kid's not doing it. She goes, yeah, she's really not ready for that. We're not ready for that point. And before I'm thinking, I gotta have it done, and I know it's gonna get there. So it's really been an enjoyable fall with all the things and the distractions. This has actually been our easiest fall as far as the coaching staff and team chemistry.
Good. You've talked about the experience a lot. You had a lot of kids coming back. You've got a lot of depth on this team coming up for this spring. Creates maybe a little bit of a problem for you as far as penciling in the lineup each and every day. How will you manage that lineup with the depth that you have and try to make sure everybody stays sharp throughout the spring once we start playing?
Ironically, I did put together, and we did, because we had our end of the year meetings with the players. We tried to tell the players, hey, this is where you started, this is where you're at, and then this is kind of be your role, how we feel like we can help you out. We told some of them, hey, this will be your primary position, but in case there's an injury or something happens, we've got to have backups in certain situations. I actually had put together a 2-week, 4-game series of, okay, game 1, this is our lineup, game 2 of a doubleheader, let's go to this combination. The next week, game 1, this is our lineup with maybe 1 adjustments from the previous Tuesday, and then game 2, here's the lineup. So 1, our core players are still getting enough bats that they need, but trying to balance them out to where you can get the young players, because our goal is to reload every year. So we want to think our next year's team is already here. Obviously before the rule change, our goal is always to make sure the core of your team is here the next year. So we've kind of set it up, and then we set up a couple blanks in there just in case, okay, whoever the hot hitter is, that's the person we jump in there if we want to try to see things. But it'll help our balance, try to keep everybody in shape. And then the matchups. We told the girls a lot of times you're playing, and that combination is going to be the matchups. And if we're facing a 55-mile-an-hour hitter, there's some kids that might not be our frontline players that we think they're going to hit that better than our kids. It's going to hit, the other kids throwing 58 to 64.
All right, Coach. Now we're going to move away from the field a little
Okay.
bit. We always have this at the end.
Great.
Get you smiling. I like doing this with you. It's fun. We're going to do a little segment. This time we're going to say it's going to be called "Which Buck Is It?" Okay, so we're going to give you. Well, I'm going to give you a bunch of different little categories, and you're going to have to tell me which one of your players, or you can throw your assistant coaches in there if you want. Which Buck fits what I say the best?
Okay. I'm going to need a little pause because I've got a good group of kids.
Okay, yeah, you do have a big group this year. Okay, this one should be easy for you, okay? Which Buck hits the ball the furthest?
Wow. I'd have to say Owen. Owen, when she gets a hold of it, she's probably the strongest. But Chelsea's pretty close, and Pally's pretty close too.
Owen should finish this year as the all-time home run leader if she continues along her pace.
So we'll get another year too.
Yeah, and another one if she wants to come back again. So, all right, this one, I think this one will be easy for you. Which Buck is the loudest?
Oh, definitely Shanika.
Yeah,
I had to think about that. I had to go through the list, but definitely Shanika is our loudest. She's our most outgoing one, and definitely the energy of the team.
No doubt about that one. All right, now we're gonna go the opposite. Which Buck's the quietest?
I'm gonna say Stella and Beth. I mean, both of them. I like them. They walk quietly and carry a big stick. So I've been pleasantly surprised with both of them, and they're pretty quiet. So I'm pleased with both of them and happy with what they can do because they're my perfect player. Just talk with your bat.
Take care of their business, huh? All right, which Buck would you say is the funniest?
Wow, I'm going to say Emily Parent. I mean,
I like that
when
answer.
you really look at it, it's just she just has a great sense of humor and just doesn't worry about anything and just lives for the moment.
Yeah, I like that answer. You've got some funny kids on your team,
Yeah.
so that's a good title for Emily there. But I do like that one.
Yeah.
Gamer in the circle though. Once she gets between the lines, she gets pretty
Definitely.
locked in. Which Buck? This isn't a great one to be on the list for this one. Which Buck is most likely to be late?
I don't know. They're 15 minutes early, an hour. I mean, I get there an hour early, and there's usually 4 of them already in the training room. So the only one that's ever late is because they're somebody had to wait to bring Feline from class because they were in class. And that's the only time I've.
Okay, so we'll just answer that, but it's not a bad. Not a bad.
From day one, and I mean from the first year, it's been if you're not 15 minutes ahead before we start, you're late, and they're on the line 15 minutes early.
And we go back to that experience factor. Having such an experienced team probably helps from that standpoint.
Yes.
Which Buck is the best student?
Wow. Well, Owen's going to be the obvious one, but believe it or not, Alyssa O'Donnell that's the other quiet one that basically pulls straight A's.
Okay, so good one. So Owen hits the ball the furthest, best student. That's a good combo as a student athlete.
Sure.
And Alyssa, same thing, put up big numbers last year as a freshman, great student, so that's good for her too. All right, and you can't say yourself on this one, okay?
Okay.
Which Buck is the best dancer?
I haven't seen them dance. I'm not sure I could.
Yeah, you're usually doing the home plate meeting when they get their dance.
Yeah, I'm going to defer on that one because it doesn't have to deal with it does deal with energy. It really doesn't have to do with your playing ability. So I'll pretend like I haven't seen them go anywhere to go dancing either.
Okay, so we're gonna do an Instagram takeover here with your kids here sometime in the next couple of weeks, and so we'll make sure that is one of the questions that they answer for everybody on that one. Which Buck would you say, Coach Iamurri, has the best style? Like, who's someone that when they walk in the locker room for practice, you're like, okay, nice style.
Wow.
We can go opposite too if you want.
They're all pretty good about coming in ready to play. Charlotte is one that's a player that when they walk into the locker room, they just have that presence that they're ready to get things done, they're ready to do things right.
Okay. All right, we'll ask him that one too. We got to ask Coach softball questions. He's off the field and stuff.
Usually I'm with the pitchers when they're walking in. 90% of the time we do the pitching before practice, but really when I see what I consider a player presence, that has the style that I want to see.
She's locked in.
I want to see somebody that's locked in, and definitely Charlotte usually comes in ready to go, ready to play.
This is a good one. Who was the hardest Buck to recruit? Like, who was the hardest one that it took you some work to get her to pull the trigger?
Actually, I'm going to say Marta, my assistant coach.
I like it.
I had to follow her around. It was our very first year, and we were lucky. We were locked in with a lot, but this is one that, she played with an average ball team. And I mean, I was there before the game started. I was there afterwards. I waited for her to talk to everybody else, and then I want to make sure I talked to her again. We actually had 2 different talks. She came on a visit, then we had to renegotiate her scholarship to match another school, even though I thought we were offering a better one. And then after she figured it out, we did adjust it to what I thought she deserved. But Marta was definitely the hardest player. She tells me I sent her scholarship, but she never agreed. But she ended up signing it, sending it back. But in my mind, once you're here and you were happy, and I had you on here, I sent it. But she to this day actually says, I never said yes, but you sent me the scholarship, and I felt like, hey, this is the place I want to go to. So,
Smart, that's smart of you.
Smart, yeah, definitely.
It worked out pretty good. Back here as assistant coach
Yeah.
for a second year,
Sure.
so she must have enjoyed her time
Yes.
here a little bit.
Yeah.
All-American for us, went on to play at
Yes.
George Washington. So, all right, last one. We always end this one with a food question. Maybe because I'm a little bit of a bigger guy, so I like food. We're gonna end this one with: if you had to choose a buck to cook for you, who would it be?
I think Brooke would be the one. I think
Okay.
she talks about cooking a lot, and I think she comes from a family that that they eat together as a family.
Okay.
So I'm going to go with Brooke on this.
Brooke, okay, I like that answer. Okay, and that's it. That's all we got for the which buck is it. That was a fun little segment there.
yeah.
So you got to know a little bit about your Bucs off the field there. We'll get a couple more of those questions answered later in the week when we have the girls take over on the Instagram. That would be a little bit dangerous
Yes.
for some of these ones, but they put it on the.
I would see the dancing.
dancing.
Maybe I don't want to see the dancing.
We'll have to get that one, but that does it for our show this week. We thank everybody for tuning in to the FSW Coaches Show here at Florida Southwestern State College. Next week's show, we will feature head volleyball coach Thais Bazaqueto Allen. You can find that show at FSW Bucs on social media or FSWBucs.com on our website. So thanks again for watching. Have a great day. Go Bucs.